At layunin po ng ating mga OFWs na lumilipat dito sa Amerika ang marating ang kanilang American dream, and that's why here on Kababayan LA, we try to help you do just that.
This American Dream segment is brought to you by Aquino & Lowe Law Firm, answering your immigration questions.
Attorney Allison Aquino, thank you once again for joining us on Kababayan LA, and big smile because there are some, advantageous, good developments when it comes to immigration?
Yes, and that's not too often.
Okay, let's talk about that. I'm very excited.
Well, it's actually a reminder that the higher-ups in immigration issued recently to the individuals who process applications, reminding the officers that there are certain individuals who are eligible for extended tourist visas.
Oh, okay. How do you get that, and who are eligible?
So, as you know, there are many people who come into the United States on what's called non-immigrant visas, so H-1Bs, student visas, L visas. And those individuals are eligible to bring along their spouse and their minor children, and there are dependent visas for H's, F's, and L's.
Okay.
Unfortunately, other people also have other individuals who live in their household who depend on the person who obtains that H visa.
Okay.
And if they're not the spouse or the children, then oftentimes they might be left behind.
Okay.
And so individuals who would not qualify for the dependent H visa, dependent F visa, this recent policy memorandum reminds officers that individuals who live in the household are eligible for the extended tourist visas.
Okay, and I see this cohabiting partners, whether same-sex or not. I think that's very important. So if a guy was in a relationship with another guy living in the Philippines and one of them had to come here, so that essentially means that guy can bring his partner along. Is that correct?
Exactly.
How do you prove that? How do you prove that you're together? How do you prove that they won't be able to, they're dependent on you and stuff like that?
Well, it's just like a married couple. You live together, and so you should have documents that show that you are residing together in the same household. So perhaps filing of tax returns, utility bills, the same type of documents that you would show in a marriage-based case, showing, however, you're not married, but you probably have documents showing the same address, for example.
Does the non-immigrant individual need to apply for this before coming here, or should they be here first and then apply, essentially like petition, not really petitioning, but how do you call that?
They can apply at the same time or any time thereafter for the tourist visa.
Okay.
So like in your example, let's say a person obtains an H visa, but they are not married to their same-sex partner, or they're not married, they're in a long-term relationship with the person of the opposite sex. They may even have children together. The individual would not qualify for the dependent visa, but they can apply for the tourist visa.
Oh, okay.
And so the individual, or for example, let's say elderly parents. Elderly parents who live in the same household, they would not qualify for the dependent visa, but they can apply for the tourist visa. And when they come into the United States, the dependent can stay, or can obtain authorization to remain in the U.S. for up to 1 year as a tourist.
Right.
And then they can extend the tourist visa for the length of time that the primary H visa or F visa or L visa can stay here in the United States.
Okay, but the operational word is as a tourist, so that means they can't work.
Correct.
Okay. But some people can still apply for a job, and if they find a sponsor, it can be?
Then you can change over to an H-1B or whatever is the appropriate type of visa in order to allow you to work or attend school.
And so you know how Filipinos are very spoiled because we have household help in the Philippines, and some of them who move here, they bring the helpers along. How is that in relation to this? I mean, can you explain that to us?
Yes, and so similar to other household workers like parents and cohabitating partners, domestic household workers back in the Philippines who have been working for the household for at least 1 year can qualify to obtain a tourist visa to accompany the household here to the United States.
How many?
Well, you have to be, that's a good question.
Right.
You have to be able to prove to the embassy that you can afford to pay them.
Okay.
So naturally, let's take, for example, a person who obtains an H visa. The company who sponsors them for the H visa is required to pay the person a prevailing wage.
Right.
And so within that wage that the person is getting, they themselves also have to pay the household staff a livable wage.
Okay, but the household staff, when you pay them, do they have to deduct taxes? Do you have to pay taxes?
Yes, because they are employed here in the U.S. and they need to pay, and all parties need to pay taxes.
And that's also the same thing. One allowed to remain for a year and then extend
for the length of time that the primary H1 or F or L is here in the United States.
Very interesting. So then what do you suggest to people that, you know, they may be thinking and they might find themselves in the same situation? They call you, but do they wait for them to come here, or do they file while they're there?
Well, certainly if you're there in the Philippines, you need to file while you're there. Once you get here to the United States, you need to file extensions. The important thing is documents. Like you point out, how do you prove it? And so really, individuals need to make sure that there are sufficient documents that show that you are residing in the same household, for example, or for domestic staff, you need to make sure that you have documents showing that they have been in your employment for at least 1 year.
All right, that's important, because some people also need travel companion, right? Like elderly who travel.
Correct.
But thank you so much for sharing that information with us. Certainly good news. That's the number to call on the screen. They do give free office consultation, but you can also consult via phone and email.
Correct.
Thank you so much, and that's the website on the screen as well if you want more information. More power to you. We'll be back more on Kababayan LA. Don't go away.